I'ma go up, slide, slide. You the one top it, top it, top it. Here we go.
Yeah. So it's we are Bureau Klaus Alman, so one part of Bureau Klaus Alman. But first of all, we would like to thank Dennis for inviting us to the first Hack in Cologne. It's a pleasure to be here. And like I said, to introduce me, first I'm Andy. I'm a 3D generalist and 3D designer at Bureau Klaus Alman.
Yeah, I'm Lucas, and also a 3D generalist most of the time, and also working for Bureau Klaus Alman. Yeah.
And we both know each other since almost 20 years from now, and started together working in a design agency in Düsseldorf, and made our apprenticeship for Mediengestalt, Bild und Ton. And after some years of freelancing and additional education, we came back to each other in 2018 and started Bureau Klaus Alman. And Bureau Klaus Alman is a 3D motion design studio here in Cologne. And to say some words about our work, it's mostly combining 3D design-driven visuals with some technical aspects. And for the technical aspects, Houdini is quite useful for us. And I think we started using Houdini quite heavily since 2018 from now. And we are, beside us two, we are a team of 5 3D artists. We are all kind of the same skill level, but one of us is more like into lighting and shading, and the others are more like into more technical stuff and maybe some coding and so on. Coding is not my stuff, but so we are quite good in changing some work under each other. But I think the best way to show our work is a showreel.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks again for having us. Again, I'm Lucas, and I do this the first time, so bear with me. I will read a lot because just to make sure. I just wanted to take some time to explain the basic concept that we will presenting. We learned and adapted a lot from the Houdini community. So some of those concepts that we will present may or may not be familiar to you. However, we try always to give it a different spin and a bit of our own touch, and to create something new. As Andy said, everyone in our studio uses Houdini differently. Some more technical and in VEX and programming, and some more visual, like me and Andy in VOPs and SOPs. But in the end, all roads lead to Rome. And there are people out there that can explain that stuff in far more detail than us. But we're That being said, we're at the end of the day, our job is to create beautiful images and animations, and not being the best at specific software. So but over the years, we adopted some basic techniques that help us gain better control over simulations and animations. So guiding the flow is all about art directing simulations, and there will be a lot of fluids. So yeah, next page.
So yeah, basically, like Lucas said, we are guiding through different kind of projects which are connected to different kinds of simulations and stuff. And first of all, we talk about vector forces because this is quite useful for us to guide simulations. Afterwards, we talk about flip fluids and how to use vector forces in it and how to control it. Afterwards, we had a spin of doing a setup with fake fluids. And the last two topics are Vellum and the two-way interaction inside of Vellum. Like I said, the vector forces are quite useful for us to control and guide some simulations, for example, pop at particles, or use the vector forces inside of a field force, for example. And that's the basic tree of the vector forces and how to set up. We start with a curve in a way, and make it like you wish where to guide the simulation, basically, and that all leads into a VOP sub, and inside of the VOP you connect the different attributes, for example, tangent U combined with P, and everything combined with some different kind of cross functions, for example, or some curl noise to add like a behavior you want to add to your simulations, and everything is combined into a velocity. And like Lucas said, it's nothing new for us. Maybe some are familiar to this, and it's basically adapted from a setup from Simon Fiedler in a 10-year-old tutorial. So big shout out to Simon Fiedler, and like Lucas said, for the whole community of Houdini. And we also use quite often a SOP called shortest path to get some natural looking guides or curves at the beginning, which are driving the simulation. That's a node tree, and it's basically the same like before, but added with a group node, which defines the end and the start and the end point of the shortest path, and to have this kind of airflow looking curves. That's basically it to use the setup in different kind of ways in our simulations.
First project that we received a lot of feedback to, so we thought that might be interesting for the presentations. Our friends in design studio Gettesmeyer and Krohn approached us with a project trailer for their espresso tamper called Super Tamp, and we had a lot of freedom. We could basically do whatever we want as long as it looks beautiful. The film focuses mainly on material explorations in both worlds, like brewing in espresso, and also like the raw materials that the tamper is made from. So we basically see a montage of brewing in espresso and an abstract manufacturing process of the product itself. A lot of metal, coffee, sims, and grain simulations on there. So let's see how that turned out. Yeah, so one key feature of the temper is that the pressure is applied evenly across the whole coffee ground. So when you pull a double shot from the espresso, it's kind of coffee nerd thing, but it runs out perfectly even through both of those things and runs perfectly through the espresso machine. However, yeah, we needed to control that flow pretty distinct. So we used vector forces again, as Andy explained beforehand. We have like splines that are guided through our abstract espresso machine. Yeah, that is basically a visualization of the points being driven from that vector force and just pushed down. This is not a fluid, but more like an approach to visualize where stuff is going or will be going, rather than to simulate heavy flip sims. You can see that it's going into the right direction. Our emission was a flip-top source and a moving sphere. We had some noise to the color, which we used later on to give some color differences to the crema. That's the meshed one with some color. You can see it running through. Yeah, other than that, to that setup, there's not much magic to it. It's just hours and hours tweaking parameters to have like the physical properties of an espresso that can be quite time consuming. So yeah. And then we also captured a dual rest attribute, which you can do inside of the flip solver. And we utilized this later on to use in the Redshift triplanar node as a reference guide. That's one way to get kind of stable UVs onto moving fluids when you have a reseeding on. We haven't a steady point count, so we can utilize point IDs or something because the point count is steadily changing and we can't capture the information to the exact point. So that way, that was quite useful to use some bump textures onto the.
Yeah. Okay. Great.
And the same thing applied to the metal liquids. So we have basically some curves that we stamped around in a circle and projected it to our stone surface. And then again, some vector forces that are sucking in those liquids into the stone. Yeah. That's that.
Yeah, maybe one additional note to the setup, because flips are quite heavy to control in a way, or time consuming in simulations and stuff. But with the vector forces, you have the opportunity that you know all the time where the fluid will flow to. So that's quite less time consuming.
Yeah, so you can focus on the physical properties of the liquid instead of wrapping your head around where the fluid will be going. So you can see where it's going because you know you have the control of it, but all those little details like viscosity or surface tension that is happening inside of an espresso, you can spend more time on that and less time on going where this fluid stream is going. Yeah.
Which leads us a bit to our next project or setup, so to say. This was a commercial we did together with where the Buffalo Rose. It's a production company from California, and they asked us to help them on a commercial for a financial technology company, which called Mercury. And the idea was to build some icons or specific icons, and the logo out of mercury or liquid mercury, and to see how it looks in the end. We'll start the commercial. So to be honest, it's a director's cut, but yeah. Our first idea was to build everything with flip fluids and spend some hours and days to set flip simulations, which colliding with the icons and with the specific icons. It turned out to be quite heavy to build the whole logo. For example, at the on the top down right on the bottom. Because you have to push quite a lot of particles inside the simulation to get an even look of the liquid at the end. And at some point we had to skip the idea of doing everything inside of flip fluids. So we came up with a different approach to make everything with fake fluids, but still have some kind of liquidish movement. And the idea was to have a even and clean icon at the end. And with the flip fluids, it was kind of hard to control the surface of the mesh. So we started to scatter some points on a torus in this case, but it's just a basic setup, and mask get some mask attribute, mask from geometry to start a pyrospread simulation. And this pyrospread simulation was kind of the initial setup or the initial infection for the simulation. And pyrospread is a quite useful SOP we use in quite a few projects from then, and you have the control over different kind of behaviors. To drive the simulation, you have to remap the attribute from mask into a temperature attribute to start the simulation. But we want to get some more details on the edge of the simulation, so you have this kind of liquidish movement, and for this we used a wrangle inside of a SOP solver, and this SOP solver time ramps each time. It's a time ramp or it's a time remap.
The SOP solver records basically the timestamp where each point has been infected. And that way you can get control afterwards over the length of the animation on each point.
Yeah, and when you have this kind of information, you can remap. In this case, we had a wrangle where we added a ramp where you have the control of the time ripples. So you have a visually connection to the look of the ripples in this ramp down here. And you have also the possibility to control the fade length of the ramp, which defines the frame. And the lower the value, the shorter the time ripples appear on the simulation. Just to recap, we started with the infection of the pyrospread, added a mask like this, and remap the time ripples, and also then transferred the time or the mask attribute into the p-scale attribute, and this leads into a VDB from particles, and then it's all meshed, and it's a pretty straightforward setup at the end to get some liquidish motion. And since then we use it quite often to reveal things and to have this liquid movement without heavy flip simulations.
Which leads to the next project. We have a project series called Anomaly, where we dive into a specific topic and just explore a new concept, and basically lots of R&D and a lot of terabytes of cache files, just exploring stuff. The latest film called Conductor originated from a client project on industrial metal fabrication that was cancelled during production. But since we had already extensive R&D on that, we didn't want to go to waste all that work, so we decided to repurpose this in a uncommissioned project. That's how the film looks. One idea we came up with is this Victorian-style coin with some BKA branding to it, and we thought it would be cool have it emerge from liquid metal. The first thing we did was to run some illustrations from a guy's head and a horse's head via some image text-to-image diffusion layers, because we are not quite the illustration guys, but later on we used a combination of Substance Sampler and Photoshop to create some graphic assets that we assembled inside Houdini's height field system. This is the basic node tree. I can run through it very, very quickly. We have the assets on top, and they're going down, have like some transformation to it, like some height field mask, and we layer them on each other to basically lead to the final coin design. But you will see that in the next slide, I hope. There are some masks that we then extrude. We have some typography layers and some pattern for the rim of the coin. And at the end, we run a height field erosion to make it all a bit worn out, like a worn out old coin and not a fresh one. That also has some grime in the edges and stuff. That's the final coin design on the end, you know. And then we used the trace nodes inside of Houdini to run those graphic assets and get some curves from them. To again have some vector force setup to drive the liquid simulation later on. Then we carved out some of the partitions from the curves and have them act as an emitter, as an emission source to run an advected mask. Here you have two node trees. This one basically shows what goes into the subsolver. We have those curves going from the right into the first slot, and we have our vector force going into the second. And this is what is happening inside of the subsolver. So we import the force and the emission source, like the mask we just seen, and then run a basic VDB advect. And we have a volume wrangle that is basically doing a mask accumulation that is adding each frame onto each other. So we, at the end, you get something like this. And you can see that in the parts where we have the typography, it curls around the letters and stuff. And we use this to drive 2D pyrosim. And we have, again, our volume vectors coming in and our mask that we've just seen. and this is running inside a pyrosolver to give it more like a natural organic behavior, and stuff is curling around more natural manner. And this is what that looks like. So you have additional details. You can see how the profile of the face of the guy and all those types are like growing and stuff. Yeah, to wrap this one up, to wrap this one up, we use those two masks, the VDB advected and the Pyrosim, to mask out our final coin design, which runs out here. Yeah, and that looks like this. Yeah, we baked everything into EXRs then via CopNet, and used this in Redshift to run a displacement map of the coin. We just mapped the circular thing, and then just yeah. And the other thing is like a mask that blends between two materials. So you have one grime layer that sits inside of the cavities from the coin, and the other layer being more polished, where you maybe have it in the pocket or something that looks more like a coin would look.
Yeah, and we thought it would be great to have it like a texture and displace it inside of Cinema, because the VDB or the actual mesh, which you saw before, it's quite heavy to get these details, and yeah, it works quite good at the end to work with a displacement map.
Yeah.
Yeah, next is an approach of Vellum two-way interaction. In this case, it's a combination of cloth and fluid inside of Vellum, and yeah, it's a really good way to simulate inside of Vellum both interactions. We teamed up with our friends from Tendril on a Samsung trailer for tablet S9. I don't know, I think it was 2 years ago or something like this. And yeah, to see how it comes out.
Out of this world, I make moves ahead of the curve. I'ma teleport you to another dimension, straight up out of this earth. I can't stop, I'm on a roll. Buckle up, we're taking control. Feel the vibration, no limitation. We got the power, let's go. Power. Now that's power. Power.
Thank you. So beside other tasks, one major task was to create the droplets dropping down the lotus leaf. And yeah, like I said, it was kind of interesting to have this two-way interaction between the fluid or the droplets and the leaf itself. And yeah, we started to import the geo of the leaf and split up the geometry into groups to use the groups later on inside of a Vellum constraint and treat them differently, because the stem should behave more stiff like the leaf itself. For getting this stiffer kind of behavior, we used a shape match constraint for the stem, and the leaf itself is a basic cloth constraint, and everything is merged together in a glue constraint, and the shape of the glue constraint should look a bit like a cylinder to get this natural kind of behavior for the leaf.
Yeah,
itself.
because the leaf is quite heavy on the little stem, and we use those glue constraints to basically keep everything intact without the leaf collapsing because of the weight of the fluid. Yeah.
Yeah. And additionally, we created an emitter for this, to get these kind of droplet-ish looking fluids. We used a sphere and transformed it up and down and move it around. So you get this kind of emission of droplets. Everything is split up into constraint nodes, and it leads inside of the Vellum solver. And everything is cached out to get the points of the fluid simulation and the two-way interaction of the fluid and the cloth simulation. For now it looks a bit messy because there are some points swirling around, but with some VDB processing and smooth out the mesh or the VDB, we could get rid of the droplets. At the end, it was not that complicated as we thought at the beginning, and it was a straightforward setup. But it was, to get to the end, it was kind of pushing some different kind of how it's called. Sorry, properties. Properties to get this surface tension, for example, and how the cloth should or the leaf should behave together with the fluid. Yeah.
Yeah. The next one is, for this project, our friends at 2 Studios from Düsseldorf reached out to us to assist with a few simulations for a supplement brand called Nature Love. Nature Love commissioned them to create a product trailer for their Manose cranberry hydration supplement, featuring some water streams flowing through the powder, at least. But 2 Studios specialized in live action and in cinematography, and they couldn't capture these particular shots because the supplements dissolves immediately upon contact with water, so they just couldn't get the shots. Since we couldn't figure out a way to achieve a two-way flip interaction in this way, and MPM wasn't available in Houdini back then, we decided to go with Vellum instead. Yeah, that's how that looks. This is the basic node tree. We have some grid, we paint some attribute, we lift the surface where the attribute has been painted. Then we have some basic VDB from polygons, which are just, the pushed up surface is converted into a volume and then smoothed out. So we have those little funny bubbly hills there. And then we do some points from volume, and then we run an attribute noise to utilize in the cluster node, which is kind of cool. It creates some chunks of points with an integer attribute on the points, which indicates the cluster number the points belong to. So you have those groups of grains that are that are tied to each other. We then set some break threshold scale. We use this later on to break the chunks of grains based on how they have been affected, but we will see that later. We then have some basic grain settings, and of course some Vellum glue, which utilize the cluster attribute. For the emission, we again have just a sphere and some basic grain constraints. That's nothing too fancy. And when we run this sim, you get kind of this liquid stream with the which carries away the chunks of grains, which looks decent, but it also has this rubbery feeling to it. It does not look like a supplement that gets in contact with water and dissolves over time. So, to address this, we came up with a solution to it. Additional subsolver inside the Vellum .NET, which gradually dissolves the glue constraints over time based on whether they come into contact with water or not. As you can see here, we split it the constraints into two streams. One is the actual liquid, and one is the grain source. And then we transfer a color attribute from the fluid to the grains. That way we can see if a grain has been in contact with water or not. Afterwards we use that color to set a threshold at which point an integer called, what is it called? It's called a contact frame start counting up until it reaches the maximum value. In the second wrangle, I actually have a slide for that. In the second wrangle, we use the break threshold we had all earlier on attribute to dissolve the constraint depending on whether the maximum value has been reached. Essentially this means if a constraint has been infected by the water, it will dissolve over time to a given value, causing the grains to come independent of each cluster. So basically the cluster breaks up and moves with the fluid. Here you can see a visual interpretation of this. The color is coming from the attribute called contact frames. So I think it was like 60 frames corridor where the frame, the constraints are dissolving. You can see this especially when the chunks are getting red, and then they're gone. That's just another visual interpretation where you can see better what is happening to the actual simulation. So the chunks are dissolving into the fluid. At last, I want to say that we just applied this effect to certain areas of the grains because we have an excessive amount of points, as you can see. And we only painted out the areas where the liquid streams are flowing, and the effect only takes place in those places. And that's about it. If you have any questions, we may or may not be able to answer them. But if we can't answer them, you can download our files at our page.
So basically all the files, or not all, instead of Koto, you can download the files on our website. Feel free to make a photo of the link. And like Lucas said, feel free to question us everything you want or give us some feedback, whatever. And
You last grain liquid Vellum simulation. Have you uprest the grains afterwards, after the simulation?
What was the question?
Uprest.
No.
How many parts?
We had steady points that were not simulated. And at the last shot, you're talking about the top shot, right? I'm actually not sure. It could be that we have like some upredding there, but but in the end we had to render those points even if they're not uprest. But I think we had some pig heads that we dropped all over the place, and then just had one initial state where we felt like, okay, that looks like a natural spot, and let's use this as a still, and then go with the liquid streams. I hope that answers the question. Kind of, yeah. Thanks again for the Houdini community.
I'm sorry, I just have a very basic question.
Sure.
I'm a little bit embarrassed because I guess for most of the guys and girls here, it's a very easy to answer question, but I'm not familiar with simulating any kind of material or liquids or anything. And when I saw your awesome work, by the way, it looks absolutely magnificent.
Thank
you.
you.
Thanks.
When I saw the simulation of the, for the espresso product. How do you ensure the maximum realism in the simulation of a liquid that is normally not as usual as, for example, water? So when you simulate flowing espresso and it's very thick because I don't know, there's not much water but a lot of espresso powder or whatever. How do you ensure that it's realistic? I mean, is it like, do you have to do a lot of research on, I don't know, liquid stuff? Or how do you do that?
Yeah, also, it is super dependent on scale and on how many particles you can. Yeah, what?
Could you repeat the question into the mic?
Oh, yeah. The question was basically how to set realistic properties into a fluid simulation if you want to emulate specific type of viscosity or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's totally dependent on the scene, first of all. And then you have inside flip sims, you have properties to navigate through this. You can use surface tension, which dictates how good the particles want to constrain to each other. And you can also play with viscosity, which is kind of making a fluid thicker or thinner. You have also like density and stuff. But as I said in the talk, it's like you have to play around hours and hours and days to get something really to nail something. It's not much magic. It's just sitting in front of your desk and waiting, waiting. But there are tools, and sure, if you have done this a lot, you get used to those parameters, and things get easier. But it's still not easy.
Just one follow-up question: do you sometimes compare your simulation with real life tests? For example, you go to the kitchen, get yourself some espresso stuff, and rip it on stuff to compare your work?
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, in this case we did it.
It's not my topic, that's why the question might be a little bit silly.
No, it's a super good question. Yeah. Yeah, it is, but it actually is kind of draining if you you just think, I have to do this again, and it can take some time to simulate before you can see any differences in
it could be quite frustrating as well to just get started and you see it and you want to apply the realism into 3D space. Yeah, I think it depends on how many tryouts you did on the simulation before, and you get to the end faster if the more you try out. But at the end it could be frustrating, but it's fun to see at the end. So
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you guys. Yeah, sure. The man on the coin. It's Klaus, actually.
This is Klaus.
This is what we imagined Klaus could look like, with a big brain and big head and super, intelligent person, much more than we are. Sure.
Do you guys use wedging a lot in your workflow?
No, not at all. But just because I don't know how to do it. But it could help a lot to have. The question is to have more iterations overnight, maybe. There's a tool called wedging, but I don't know much about it. But basically, you can set some random parameters, and overnight it will simulate more of the same thing for you, so you can decide in the morning if you go with this version or that version. So Any questions? Yeah, thanks again for having us, and thanks for
thank you
for a great community.
Yeah,
so
thank you very
we're
much.
grateful to learn from all those guys putting stuff into tutorials as well, because that's how we learn. And hopefully someone gets something from this one.
And thanks for sharing the presentation. That's really awesome.
Yeah. Feel free to download.
Feel free to download, and feel free to use the project files.
Yeah, or ask questions via email or Instagram.
Yeah,
or
for sure.
Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you.